Hey everybody, it's Pastor Mark here, and you'll know right away that it is not Wednesday. I missed our check-in yesterday. I had some technical difficulties, but I'm glad to be with you here on this actually sweltering Thursday here in my backyard in North Bend. When the pandemic struck, I started doing these Wednesday check-in videos just as a way to stay connected. I mean, really, that was it. Simple purpose to just have something out there that people could watch midweek and feel connected to the church community. Now that we're back in person, we're live streaming, we're doing all these things, I'd like to change the Wednesday check-in format a little bit. And I just want to let you know that I'm doing that. So it's not going to be just a check-in and a hey, how are you doing? And maybe some announcements, but I'm going to try to weekly give you a little insight into how my sermon preparation is going and what are the issues that I'm wrestling with. A lot of what you're going to hear may not even make it to the pulpit. This is just more background and other information that I'm wrestling with, or challenges that I'm wrestling with that I don't quite have a great handle on, but I think are important questions that might be interesting for you to hear about, but aren't quite polished or ready to go to the pulpit yet. This week I'm dealing with two of those issues, actually. We're continuing in the bread of life, the metaphor that Jesus is offering for his disciples and the crowd. Remember, over and over again, Jesus is saying to the crowd and his disciples, I am the bread of life. And one of the indictments in the early Christian community, or against the early Christian community, was that they were cannibals, that they ate the body and blood of Jesus. And of course, that sounds a lot like cannibalism. And so this Roman community accused this underground Christian church of being cannibals. And John's gospel really doesn't help our case here. Jesus keeps saying, I'm the bread of life. And we might want to be tempted to say, oh, that's great, that's a beautiful metaphor, and kind of spiritualize that. But then in our text for this coming Sunday, our story for this coming Sunday, Jesus kind of digs in a little bit, and he uses a different verb, which I found absolutely fascinating. Rather than backing away from this, I'm the bread of life, and the bread of life is my flesh, you've got to eat this bread and you will live. The NRSV doesn't make a distinguish between the two verbs that are used for eat. And the first one he uses is, just relatively like consume, eat, normal eat verb. The second one he does, no. You've got to eat, like gnaw and chew this bread of life, kind of viciously, like a dog would chew on a bone. He ups the anxiety and ups the tension with his verb choice there. You've got to really not just eat, but you've got to really eat this bread of life. And I find that really fascinating. Jesus is resisting the temptation to spiritualize his message and just make it some nice, comfortable thing that we can say, oh, isn't that sweet? Jesus is the bread of life, and then go on. But no, you got to consume this. You got to eat this. This has got to be a part of you. And I think that's a really powerful part of the story, that Jesus leads us into this new life. But it's not just an abstraction or a good idea, something that we really want to dig into and wrestle with seriously, intentionally. The other piece is Jesus says, eat this bread and you will not die. And I'm curious, this is going to sound a little dumb, but what does he mean by that? I mean, people have been eating this bread and participating in this meal throughout the generations and have died. And yet Jesus isn't wrong. We're not making a mockery of Jesus here. What does he say by you will not die? You will have this rich, full, abundant life here and now. You will have hope for the life in what is yet to come. And I think that's a powerful question. I'm also wondering, what was the cultural context that Jesus was speaking to? What was the problem he was addressing with this solution of new life? And how are we invited into that question? So that's what I'm wrestling with this week. You'll probably hear some of that come out in some, hopefully a little more polished version in the pulpit this Sunday. But I really do appreciate all that you've done through the pandemic, for staying in touch, for staying connected, for joining us for worship in the live stream or in person now. And just know that I appreciate all that you do. See you this weekend.